You have a prepaid call from
Omar.
an inmate at Nevada Southern Detention Center. Your account balance is $4.69. To hear the charges for this call, press or say 2. To accept this call, press or say 5. To refuse this call, hang up now. To block this call and all future calls, press. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin speaking now.
Hello, hello.
Hey, Omar. It's always good to hear your voice. We just got word on another political prisoner that they denied his appeal, so we're kind of bummed out, but it's good to hear from you, man.
Denied his habeas.
They denied his habeas corpus, whatever a habeas corpus is, but they denied it. Everybody's kind of bummed out about it.
Man, these courts so corrupt, man. I mean, but even the higher ones, I can't believe it. You know.
Yeah.
Well, I have a little bit of good news and a little bit of bad news. What you want to hear first?
Let's go with the good. Let's go with the bad first. Let's get the bad out of the way.
Okay, the bad is that they charged me with assault on staff.
Oh.
And basically, which is just straight nonsense. But so yeah, the hearing is tomorrow at about 2 p.m. And I just learned today, according to their new phone system, they're able to literally stop me from making any family or friend calls. They can't call anybody if they find me guilty of either one.
Wow.
Yeah, they will block me from calling anybody, which is a total violation of your constitutional rights.
What about U.S. mail? Will you lose access to U.S. mail? Can you still write letters out?
No, I'll be able to write letters and receive mail, even though I'll be too bombarded with legal work to write anybody.
Gotcha.
But I can receive mail, and I can make only legal calls. This is if I get found guilty of one of those two charges. So I wanted to call, to let you guys know that I might not be able to call till I go home. I mean, I don't know, which is crazy. But
well, what's the two charges? Assault on staff, and what's the second one?
And the insurrection.
Oh my God!
But isn't it all on video?
They have the whole thing on video, right?
They do, but I don't think they're gonna play it. They should, and I'm gonna tell them to. But usually, unless I sue them or I'm being charged officially in court, then they will probably show the video what happened. Which I don't know how it works, but I hope I can get a copy of this video to show you guys how outrageous it really went down.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's so unbelievable because the use of force and the stuff that they do like that is usually if it's like a real riot going down, like they don't just come call 40 people ERT for just nothing happened. I mean, that's crazy. No one threatened nobody. No one was fighting. Anyways, so that's a little bit of the bad. And I just got the whole packet of all those motions in lemony. I mean, trying to bar me from bringing up anything.
Well, you know what? I'm going to drop a letter in the mail to you tomorrow, just so you'll have my mailing address. And in the event the unthinkable happens and they stop you from making phone calls out of that prison anymore, at least if something significant happens and you want to get word out to the public, you can write a letter and we'll read it. We'll read it into YouTube or however you want us to handle it.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. And so here's some good news. The good news is that the government has been concealing evidence about their corrupt detective Michael Kitchen for the longest. That's the detective who's been fired and that was arrested for like that sexual assault kind of misconduct. Well, that detective, they've been concealing his internal affairs investigation, which I now have.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, I have that, which was actually when he was being interrogated of his arrest.
Is he still employed right now, or has he been fired?
He's been fired, and they gave him a slap on the wrist. They gave him 3 years of probation starting 2015, so he's probably done with it now. But yeah, that's all they gave him. And he was facing life at first. It's all over the news. If you look up Michael Kitchen, LVMPD former detective, on like Google, you'll see the whole report.
Is he the same? Is he the same detective you suspect was planning stuff on you, or is he involved? How's he involved in your case?
Well, he's the one who coerced me to the false confession. He's the one that the government does not want. They don't not even want to call him to trial. They don't not even want to give me a hearing about this matter.
They're putting in a motion in limine to keep you even from bringing him up during the trial.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
I can't even. This is the guy who interrogated me. This is the guy who collected evidence in my case. He's a material witness. Listen, if you look up, I mean, I know you don't know about the law, but Jackson versus Deno.
Yeah.
It's a Supreme Court case, right?
Yeah.
DENNO, Jackson versus Deno, says you have a constitutional right to challenge a confession if you know on any ground, especially if it's a false confession. I mean, I was coerced into a false confession. This is how crazy this is, and the court has thus far not given me even a hearing to determine that prior to trial. I did file a motion in limine about it, so we'll see if they grant me that hearing to determine about this matter and hopefully get Kitchen on stand.
Hey, is it possible to put a motion in limine that the prosecution, can't withhold exculpatory evidence, and put a motion in limine that the court reporter, can't change the court record, and put a motion in limine that the judge can't be unbiased, or biased? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've done all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, man. It's like they're so wicked and they're so wrong on so many different levels. It's like, you should be. They put 7 motion in limine. Well, you should put a motion in limine like that. They just have to play fair and be constitutional, but that's just too much to ask for. But insanity that you can't even bring up this Michael Kitchen thing. If he's a corrupt cop and he coerced your confession and now they fired him, then you should definitely be able to bring that up before the jury. And the fact they don't want to bring that up means that they're scared to death that it's going to influence the jury in your direction.
Right, they know that. Well, see, here's the thing: that's why they don't want me to bring up any evidence, any witnesses. They're trying to strike all my exhibits. I don't know if you read some of the motions in limine, but they don't want me to bring up. They don't even want me to bring up their own police reports. They don't even want me to bring up the arrest report itself. I mean, this is outrageous.
Yeah. That's crazy.
They don't want me to bring up nothing. They want me to just stand there. Like, no joke.
Just stand there while we send you to prison. Don't say anything. Don't say anything that might think... Incredible.
Right. It's a fashion show. It's a kangaroo circus court.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to describe it, but, it's really remarkable that they can do this, and the court's just on their side, stepping out of his role as a impartial judge.
Yeah.
I hope he gets some morals in the next couple of days or something going on, but so far it's been real bad. I hope something happens to change his mind, or
Well, if something does happen in this hearing tomorrow, I guess it's a disciplinary hearing report or something that they're going to have inside the prison.
Yeah.
How are we going to find the results? You think your dad might be able to fill us in? Because if you can't make any more phone calls, we're just going to be like, Tuesday goes by, Wednesday goes by, Thursday, and we ain't even going to hear from you.
Yeah, I won't even be able to call my dad. I won't be able to call mom or anybody.
Wow.
Well, I will try to keep. I will be able to have contact with Roger.
Okay. Roger, is that Roger Roots?
Yeah, I know he's always busy though. So if I can get a hold of him, I will be able to let him know what's going on.
Okay.
But,
by the way, I'm a chaplain. I don't know if that helps, but if you ought to be able to make chaplain phone calls. I mean, that's just something to consider if it falls under some special phone call privileges or something. Sometimes there's a chaplain phone call privilege or something.
Yeah, I could try.
Okay.
I could try that. Definitely. Well, I don't know, man. I guess pray for me, and
we will.
I know you're busy, and I know you got stuff going on, but I wanted to do a quick call today, to let you guys know that I don't know. I know they obviously don't want me to make any calls to let the public know what's going on with my case. And it's just truly crazy as hell.
Yeah.
They're doing all this. It seems like it's all planned. I mean, the chief and the warden came in today, and you could just tell like they were just all planning what they're going to do. And I don't know, man.
If they were on the up and up, Omar, if they were on the up and up, and they really felt you were a convict that needed to be incarcerated, they wouldn't care what phone calls you made. They wouldn't care what letters you sent out. They wouldn't have to put in all these motion and limines to tie your hands. The reason they're so concerned is they know that they have done you wrong with 42 months in prison with no trial, and so they're doing their damnedest to conceal this and to keep it hush-hush. But you're a very bold man. There's very few prisoners like you that are willing to fight the system like this and to keep speaking out, and they would have given, most people would have given up a long time ago. So we will pray for you, Omar, and we pray that the Lord gives you strength and courage to get through this, and I pray that the evildoers are held accountable by God.
Yeah, I mean, you know how embarrassing it is to say that I did a false confession. I mean, and like I said, I did it because he made me feel like he was going to charge my mother. I understand, and I usually think of myself as being pretty bold and courageous, and I would never ever confess this. But if they started threatening my wife, or like if they started to, I might say something, right? I might just say, just whatever you want me to say, don't hurt my freaking wife. And so if this guy was playing those games with you, that needs to be brought out, that he was threatening your mom, and now he's fired and he's a bad apple. So I don't know if it was his whole tactics about threatening your mother. Was that audio recorded? Right. Well, you see, that's the thing. The problem is there's no video.
I see.
There's no. It's really my word against him that he pulled out the note card with the details of the firearm.
I see.
There's no way me to actually prove that.
I get you.
Now, the recording does prove that he did say, listen, right now I'm working with fancy paperwork, it's either yours or your mother's, and I know it's not your mother's. I mean, come on. If someone said that to you, what would you think?
Yeah. He's implying they're going to...
mom's name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, he's implying he's going to go after your moms. Let me say this real quick. Bryce Quellar, who's Fisher of Men, had 200 million views on YouTube. They SWAT teamed his own mother's house, and they told him that if he didn't take a plea deal or plead guilty, they would go after his brother for withholding evidence, and all his brother did was delete a YouTube video. The Las Vegas Police Department has a history of bringing in the family to coerce, the target to give confessions. It's not just something they've done with you. We've seen this in other cases.
It's supposed to be innocent.
Wow. Yeah. I actually, about a couple of years ago, I seen it on the TV. Some guy was in Clark County Detention Center saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to even see it on the news. Well, what about me? Why is Fox not over here?
Yeah.
I don't know. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's because I've been here too long, and they're like, this guy, that's why they're so scared of me talking out, because they know that this is unbelievable that they've held me this long, knowing that I'm innocent and that it's a multi-million-dollar lawsuit.
Yeah.
And that's why they're terrified.
Yeah.
Because of the misconduct they're trying to hide the misconduct of these officers, and the prosecutors who are seeking justice are doing it. Yeah. We're supposed to be seeking justice.
Well, let's say that they tie your hands up behind your back and they make you stand there, and they have this sham trial, and the jury finds you guilty. I mean, hell, you've already done 4 years practically. I mean, what are they going to give you? What's the penalty for the crime? It seems like you've already done the time, even if they give you the worst sentence.
Believe it or not, the statute holds up to 10.
Oh my gosh!
The judge could give me a 10-year sentence.
Oh my gosh!
Just for being mad, you took us to trial, and a jury found you guilty. Oh yeah, 10 years. Incredible. Well, so here's the thing: is my guidelines, the correct estimation is about 20-something months, and I mean I can back that up with the 1,000 case laws and motions and all that nonsense. But anyways, so which I've done it twice, but. the guidelines under the government's estimation, which is completely wrong, they're trying to say it's between 63 to 78 months. Which even then, I would still, with good time and all that, I would still have time served.
Right.
But like I said, you take them to trial and you lose, technically facing 10 years.
Incredible.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. And with these biased judges, and they're vindictive, and you know you've got on their radar because you've stood up to them. Who knows what they'll do? I mean, we had one friend that we advocate for. He got drunk. He made a mistake, right? He was high, and he walked into the wrong house, Omar. And there was no violence. There was no threats of anything. And just because he walked into the wrong house and he had some previous drug charges, 20 years in prison. This guy is currently serving, and there was no violence at all. He was stoned when he walked through the door. He didn't even break down the door. The door was open. For goodness sakes. It's just that they want to keep people in prison as long as they can.
Yeah. They do. I can. You know what? I can feel the evil of is seeping out of their pores right now. It's so bad that the air over here is just infested, man, with just evil spirits. Yeah. I can feel it.
Yeah.
It's so bad, and it's horrible, man.
Yeah, I feel the same way when I walk into any courthouse. Any courthouse I walk into, and it's like.
Oh, I know. It's bad.
Yeah, the federal courthouses especially. Yeah.
It's worse in the state. Yeah, very bad.
Yeah,
very bad. I've never felt it that bad in my life. I walked into the court the first time, actually every time, and it just shakes your soul. It's so bad. It's very evil, man.
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, and that's why they're so mad that we're talking about it. They know it's true.
Yeah, They
don't oppose it. They just say, "Oh, he's talking about it."
Yeah, exactly. We have a friend named Alfred Adask. He runs a blog spot. He does a radio show, and they put him in prison for 1 year. They didn't even bring charges against him. They just held him for 1 year.
1 minute remaining.
Anyway, he went around to all four corners of the courthouse and anointed it with oil and prayed. And I think that's what we should all do, is try to get all the evil spirits out of that federal courthouse, because it's so evil, like you said.
Yeah. My mom was in chemo today, and she was crying and telling me how she saw Jesus' feet in a dream, and that God's by my side. So, I mean, it gives me some comfort, but it's horrible to see my mom like that, and I hope she's doing good. So, I'll keep in contact with you if I can, man. So
okay.
Let's take care.
Yeah, well, you're in our prayers, Omar, and they're going to cut us off. But I pray it goes well tomorrow, and they don't cut off your communications. They obviously don't like the truth that you speak, but you will be in our prayers. And I pray anybody comes to visit you on July the 30th for your trial date.
Thank you. God bless, and you guys have a good one.
Okay.
I appreciate everything.
Okay. Goodbye, Omar.
Okay.
God bless.
Bye-bye.